Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, General, for being here today. Congratulations to you.
Thank you so much.
Last year, General Wagner was here, and he talked about the early retirement incentive program that he put in place in your office. We thought it was a very good program in saving this Commonwealth money, as well as being very fair to your employees and his employees at the time. I asked for some of those numbers, and I think the total savings that I've been given was about $1.7 million from that program.
Right.
And when I combine that with your budget request, your budget's just a single, I guess, all-inclusive line item. That increase is about an 8.6% increase. So when I add the $3.5 million increase that you've requested with the $1.7 million in cost savings, I mean, we're looking at an increase for your line item of 12 to 13%. I mean, a double-digit increase. I mean, could you expand on that, or just the need for that?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you for the question. And yes, General Wagner did opt, as opposed to trying to furlough employees, he opted for a voluntary retirement program. Actually did that twice. And there are strengths and weaknesses with that. On one of the strengths is it certainly reduced the complement in a voluntary way, so you didn't have to, in a sense, hurt families. It helped people transition out of state government into other line of work, and also did reduce the complement. The reasons those were put forward, though, was because of the reduction in the state appropriation. We are right now at the proposed level we are at right now by the governor's budget. And again, he's proposing a flat level of funding from the year before, would equate to where we were in 1998. So the same general fund budget proposal that was enacted into law under Governor Ridge in 1998 would be the number today if the governor's budget were to become law today. So obviously costs of personnel, travel costs, et cetera, have gone up dramatically since 1998. So just to put that in context, the biggest hit to our budget as far as why the need for the increase, or at least the proposed increase. And again, this is part of, I understand, look, having been on the other side of this, that I'm not the only one coming here with a budget issue. Every state agency, and there's dramatic needs that happen, public education, Department of Public Welfare, et cetera, which are obviously, and corrections, which are, and transportation, which are big issues for the General Assembly to address. The biggest need for us to ask for that increase are twofold. One is the costs that are out of our control, which is the health care costs, the pension increase, which we have to do. So regardless of what our complement is, those increases are going to have to happen. The second is technology. My joke is when I came in during the transition, I said, how's the Android and iPhone app coming? And it was shared with, not only are we not working on an Android or iPhone app, but we had dial-up internet as of the fall of 2012. Our email system is Lotus Notes. My 9-year-old daughter with her iPod has probably more technological capabilities than some of our devices. We are using, in some instances, 12-year-old computers that when they break, they have to mail them in, because again, we have field auditors all over the state, mail them in where they are fixed internally and then mailed back out. That is incredibly inefficient. So the two prongs is the costs are out of control on health care, pension, and also we have to find a way to improve our technology if we're going to be a more efficient operation, and that's why you see those increases in there. But again, I recognize you have many important decisions to make, and we're just here to make the case of why we think our item is important, but I know that we're not the only one asking for this increase across the state.
Yeah, and we know certain departments have, the revenue was here, I guess on Tuesday, talking about their upgrades from COBOL systems, right. and we understand that. Have you ever looked at other ways to generate money inside your department to pay for some of this
Absolutely.
IT or some kind of, there's initial investment that
right.
obviously is included in that large increase that you're requesting, but there's also the maintenance of upgrades year after year after year. I mean, have you ever explored, and obviously you're just, new to the position, I understand that, but have you looked into other ways to generate some kind of fees or reimbursements for your work? In the private sector, auditors charge a fee.
Right.
And look, I don't think we need to be charging school districts and government entities and our townships for some of this, but, just to name a few, we have the horse fund out there, the state liquor store system, the lottery. I mean, some of these departments or programs probably should be reimbursing you for some of these fees, if not at least for the technology of bringing you, state-of-the-art technology where you can do a more efficient job.
The short answer, I believe, is yes to that. So thank you for raising that issue. Right now, the liquor stores do pay, so they do reimburse us. But for example, the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board and the gaming system do not. And that's something, I've raised this issue privately with both chairmen, and certainly want to continue that dialogue with the whole General Assembly. We brought this up yesterday in my Senate hearing, that I think it is entirely appropriate, in my view. I know there's legislation, I think Senator Velakovich has introduced it in the Senate. I believe Representative Cutler either has or is looking to introduce something similar here in the House, where they would in a sense reimburse us for the audits we do of them. That is certainly something, and if there's other entities where we think that's appropriate, I think that is an important dialogue to have, so that those entities are reimbursing for the audits we conduct of those agencies. But also, I think another issue that I want to address is, and I understand this, and sometimes when you come in, you give a new, fresh approach, and I think that the culture of the Department of Auditor General has been independence. And I think that is critical and important. But sometimes it can be taken to a point that I think was a line too far. And I'm going to give you an example. I think on purchasing state equipment, being part of state, systems, whether it be, going to use bulk purchasing, for example. Everything the Department of Auditor General done, we'd always done on our own. So one of the reasons why we're in the jam we're in is because we don't have SAP, which is the state network for electronic leave, et cetera, because the philosophy was to be independent of the executive branch. I firmly believe that I can be an independent, tough watchdog, conduct a tough audit of the Department of Education, Department of Public Welfare, whatever it may be, and be part of the SAP network, which is part of the state contract, which would, long-term help make us more efficient and reduce costs. Or when it comes to purchasing computers, I'm just using that as an example. If the state goes out and buys 10,000 computers, I'm just throwing a number out there, that if the Department of Auditor General piggybacks off of that and buys an extra 200 to 300, I don't think anyone believes, at least I don't believe, that that impacts our independence as an agency, and we are going to be exploring each of those options, obviously with the appropriate security safeguards internally, but I just want to let you know we've opened that discussion up with the administration, with the Office of Budget, because I think that's a way that long-term, that may not help us, day one, day two, but long-term, I think it's the right thing to do.
Well, and I'm glad you're looking in that avenue, because I do think that you could get some certain reimbursements, maybe not total fees, but certain reimbursements which would help with some of your budgetary needs, especially funding your technology programs, without, losing the independent factor that you're worried about. Obviously, you've got a number of CPAs on your staff who are very qualified, who are not going to do something wrong that would inhibit their revenue stream in the future as an individual. I mean, that's one thing as an accountant. Your independence is something that in your license is very important to those people, so they understand that. And I just think it would be a way, again, I think it's a great idea to look into some of those ways to fund your IT program in the future.
Thank you, and hopefully next when I come back on, have a report on how we're instituting some of those reforms.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.